longer matches for women in professional wrestling. She wanted more exposure than just one match on an edition of wrestling television or a pay-per-view, which we never did see for women. Very rarely will we see up to 2 matches on Monday Night Raw, only when they're trying to promote the Total Divas reality show. They'll have a match with the Total Divas stars, and they'll have a match later on in the night probably for the Divas division with the champion and somebody that they're putting over in a match or something in that way. But we very rarely see, 2 matches for women. So, I understand where Lacey's frustration lied, not enough exposure for women. And how much exposure did we really see from Taryn Turnell in WWE? We'd probably see her in 1 or 2 segments as the ECW general manager, or leading up to a match, which was usually 1 match per WWE program on the way of Raw or SmackDown, which was not enough exposure for her. At least in TNA Wrestling, we're seeing her get a lot of exposure. Her exposure is over the top in TNA Wrestling, and I'm excited to see where it's going to go for Taryn Turnell's character. Even though her character is not the most creative character when it comes to characters in the TNA Knockouts division in the way of Awesome Kongs or Havocs, even though her character is not the most creative, at least it's giving her exposure like she wanted with professional wrestling. Both herself and her husband have reason to be happy now with her career choice to go back to professional wrestling, continue her dream of being one of the more successful wrestlers in women's wrestling, and she is well on her way with the TNA Knockouts Championship, to her credit, which she actually got in a triple threat match with herself, Awesome Kong, and Gail Kim, who are both tremendously experienced. We remember how Awesome Kong came into WWE, ran through the entire Divas division, and she was there 1 minute and gone the next, and it left me wondering, what happened there. I'm really happy WWE went public with her pregnancy, taking her off television, but what the fuck happened? During her pregnancy, they issued a statement on WWE.com, as they recently did for AJ, referencing her release, and then we see Awesome Kong after her pregnancy back on TNA Wrestling, as we did Gail Kim. It's amazing, how WWE can't do anything with TNA rejects, and then WWE release them after they sign TNA rejects. They go back to TNA Wrestling, and they're bigger stars than when they left TNA Wrestling. It's amazing how TNA Wrestling recognizes potential of people, especially TNA knockouts like Miss Tessmacher, Brooke Adams in WWE, Awesome Kong, Karma in WWE, Gail Kim, known as her real name in WWE, goes to TNA Wrestling still. So much potential. Tiffany, Taryn Turnell. I mean, there's just so much potential with former WWE divas, more especially than actual wrestlers, who come over from WWE or TNA and go back to WWE and go back to TNA, go back and forth between the 2 major promotions out there now. Of course, in my opinion, that's great for TNA Wrestling. That's what I can never give TNA Wrestling enough credit for, and I think that, the creators of TNA Wrestling have a lot to be proud of, and if there's one thing they have a lot to be proud of, it's their TNA Knockouts division, because look at the exposure people like Taryn Turnell are getting. Look at the opportunities that people like Taryn Turnell are receiving. It's amazing. Exposure and opportunities really define what the TNA Knockouts women's division is really all about, in comparison to the WWE Divas division, which really prides itself on selling sex. And that's really, in a PG era, really questionable, because is this really what you want to pride a women's division on? If it was TV4 TNA and it was still the Attitude Era, I could understand the WWE Divas division wanting to sell sex and wanting to promote itself the way that it's trying and striving to promote itself. But, how long can the WWE Divas division continue to thrive like this? The numbers aren't there for the Divas division anymore. People are relying more on the NXT women's division than they are the WWE Divas division, because it's not going the way that wrestling fans, and especially fans of the Divas division, want to see it going. I know from speaking from experience, being a fan of the Divas division for a number of years, I know it's not going the way I want it to go, because I want more ultimately out of the Divas division. I don't want to have to be watching WWE Network or watching YouTube episodes of Total Divas all the time just for WWE Divas to get more exposure, because they could be getting more exposure than just fucking reality television, which is really defeating the purpose of the Divas division and taking a lot away from it. And this is where TNA Knockouts can really capitalize on the WWE Divas' faults, because they are depending solely on reality television to make them superstars and for that exposure. I wish the WWE Divas division would rely on something else rather than creating the Bella Twins into the Kardashian sisters of professional wrestling, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, how does WWE get away with a Divas tag team match with AJ and Paige facing the Bella Twins, promoting Total Divas and eventually AJ's retirement and possibly the Bella Twins in the future? They are trying not only to create reality stars out of the Bella Twins, but the entire Divas division. And not, if not the entire Divas division in the way of its entirety, at least 75% of the divas are being turned into reality stars or attempting to be turned into reality stars, which is absolutely ridiculous. So at least Terrence Renell is not being turned into a reality star, and she's doing what she wanted with her career all along. She's ultimately become a champion, and she's actually getting respect from people, which is a great thing, because she wasn't getting enough respect, in my opinion. She was one of those divas that received a lot of criticism in the way of a Kelly Kelly. You know, if you compare the criticism towards a Kelly Kelly and a Terrence Renell, it was very similar. You know, people were saying about Terrence Renell she wouldn't last 6 weeks in the wrestling business. And when I was interviewing people who work closely with OVW, they were telling me, you know, they didn't think people like Kelly Kelly and Terrence Renell were going to last 6 weeks. They gave them up to a month in total in WWE once they made it to the big league after coming over from OVW, being known as people like Barbie Blank. 4 to 6 weeks was what they were giving them, and they ultimately lasted longer, 3 to 4 years. Kelly Kelly got 6 years. Terrence Renell got, I think, about 4 or 5 years, and I really wish in those 5 years Terrence Renell would have been involved with professional wrestling. She would have got more exposure, but she didn't get more exposure, and that really depressed me because, to be honest with you, I was a fan of Terrence Renell. That's why I kept up with Terrence Renell's character and her push within WWE. I was really hoping she was going to become Divas Champion or Women's Champion because of just the potential that went with her character, which is why when they released her, I was really depressed, as I was about Kelly Kelly. Kelly Kelly and Terrence Renell's releases really depressed me, more so than the release of AJ, which I felt was handled very unprofessionally. And I think AJ, I'll go on record for saying this, owes everybody an explanation as to why she retired, more than just, you know, she's thankful for everything WWE allowed her to do and gave her the opportunity to do. She needed to come out publicly on a microphone and announce her retirement, which I hope people like Terrence Renell, Gail Kim, and Awesome Kong do eventually if they ever make the decision to step down. Right now, being TNA Knockouts champion, there's a lot of pressure that goes with Terrence Renell. She's really going to have a lot of pressure on herself over the next couple of months to really perform at a high level, a lot of expectation from Terrence Renell. And I know on TNAWrestling.com, after being there over the last couple of weeks, there are a lot of videos and a lot of articles written up on Terrence Renell's success, a lot of people putting pressure on Terrence Renell being TNA Knockouts champion. And I wonder, you know, is she going to crack under pressure at some point? That's going to be really interesting. Is she going to get to that pivotal point in her career where she's going to eventually either crack or go on to success? She's going to come to a crossroads, I believe, with her career where she's either going to crack or go on to superstardom in women's wrestling. And she has got a number of wins under her belt, under a lot of experienced people, over a lot of experienced people in her career, which is amazing. And she's only been with TNA Wrestling for the better part of the last, I'd say, 2.5 to 3 years. And look at how much she's accomplished in 3 years in comparison to 5 that she was involved with WWE. She done next to nothing with WWE and in TNA Wrestling in a little over 2.5 to 3 years. I mean, she's won a TNA Knockouts championship, and she's competed with some of the best. Gail Kim, Awesome Kong, Havoc. I mean, she's done it all as a wrestler. She came in as just an on-screen character brought in by Brooke Hogan, and look what Brooke Hogan did for her. She gave her an opportunity, and ever since being given that opportunity by Brooke Hogan, the general manager of the TNA Knockouts division, look at the opportunities she's gotten, and look at how much she's made out of those opportunities. And this is why I have the headline in the graphic for this video over on our YouTube channel at Jonathan Clark 22. The headline in the video says, you know, Terrence Renell getting a push in WWE. Tiffany is TNA Wrestling after being given an opportunity by TNA Wrestling after pushing her when WWE didn't. And I think truer words have never been spoken in a headline for any graphic that I've made for a video, because at least TNA Wrestling recognized her potential, which is why I say Tiffany is TNA Wrestling. You know, she's going by her shoot name now, like many people have after getting off contract with WWE. But look at the benefits since going by her shoot name. What a shoot name benefits you as. You know, a shoot name gives you more of an opportunity, in my opinion, than an actual stage name, which is all Tiffany really was. And I think Tiffany is just something of the past that Terrence Renell is trying to forget about. And I think now, in 2015, you know, with everything that's happened in professional wrestling, especially with women's divisions in various companies, I think that if you were to refer to her as Tiffany rather than Terrence Renell, she'd probably go off on you, because I think she's got to a point in her life where she's trying to forget about that Tiffany character. And I think that she has accomplished that, especially with winning a TNA Knockouts championship in the way of a Kelly Kelly. You may call it controversial having a Barbie doll as your TNA Knockouts champion, but how many times in the past have WWE had a Barbie doll representing their Divas division? More times than enough. So at least TNA Wrestling, I think, can get away with it once or twice. And this is not the first time they've had a Barbie doll representing the Knockouts division, because they too, even with how WWE has been criticized for selling sex with their Divas division in a PG time in comparison to a TV 14A time, even though they've been criticized, TNA Wrestling does the same thing. They don't do it as often as what WWE do it, but they do it more than enough. I mean, they did it with Chantel Taylor a number of years ago because they realized look sold back then, and that was years ago. And we're seeing it now in 2015 with Terrence Renell under that same realization, that pivotal point where TNA Wrestling has realized the same thing that WWE has. Maybe not as much as what WWE has, but they're trying to sell their division by selling sex the same way WWE did. I question that more than enough in a PG time in comparison to a TV 14A time, when it would have been more acceptable to see this sort of thing. But in PG, I'm not really so sure about it. But both promotions in WWE and TNA in that way are kind of doing the same thing, only with different representatives. In WWE now, we have the WWE Divas Champion being Nikki Bella. She's held on to that title very consistently over the last number of months. She's in a program now with Naomi and Paige over that championship, with Paige winning a Battle Royal in the UK. And in TNA Wrestling, we have Terrence Renell in programs with people like Awesome Kong and Havoc, which is great for her because she's getting that exposure. I mean, look at the way TNA Wrestling has repackaged Terrence Renell. You can't give her enough credit. You can't go without giving her the benefit of the doubt. She comes out with better entrance music, a better entrance, better ring attire. It's incredible what they've done for her, which is why I believe that Tiffany is TNA Wrestling and will continue to be the future of TNA Wrestling for